welcome to Cafe Latino. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I always like to help people to learn my traditions.
Okay.
So today we are going to do guacamole.
Okay. I've never done it before.
Yeah.
So I hope I get it right.
I will, well, before we begin, I always want to talk about, let's talk a little about, so we have all the ingredients here.
Okay.
So just take the onion.
Onion.
And now you're going to
Now, how do you say this in Spanish?
Cebolla.
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 Okay.
So corta la cebolla. Corta cebolla. Veo los
Okay.
pieces.
We're going to cut it up now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so thank you for coming. I always love to talk with people when I cook. My mom used to have our conversations about how is school and everything was in the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
So I always say, oh my God, I want to have a show when I talk with people.
Does your mom ever tell you that sometimes you get a bad knife and you got to switch it out and get a better knife? She ever say that to you?
No.
Okay, well I got a bad knife here. I'm going to get another one. We're back here in the storehouse. Let's see if I can break something. Here we go. Not this knife. Hold on a second. Hang in there. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Don't leave.
So, but the thing about the
Better knife.
Perfect. The thing about the trick about avocado, guacamole, is to be sure that when you remove, you know, the really good thing about the avocado, that has the thin green thing in the avocado.
Yeah, the pit.
Okay, you have to put the bone inside to be sure it doesn't get bad. So when you do guacamole, you leave the bone in the guacamole, so it's not getting bad.
You leave the pit in there.
Mm-hmm. The bone, the thing inside the
Yeah, the pit.
yeah. You leave it
The
inside.
seed, like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know you've been in the school board for a long time.
But I've never made guacamole.
That's good. So you should.
I know, right?
Yeah. So how you make you decide to go on the school board? It's a difficult decision.
Well, to be honest with you, I was watching the school board and I thought, boy, they're making guacamole the wrong way. And they need somebody like me in there with some common sense to
Absolutely.
make a little better guacamole.
I'm pretty sure that was not the reason. So, tell me a little about you. So tell me a little about you. Where did you study?
Well, I went to high school at Lake Braddock High School, and from there I went to Cornell, and I was an officer in the officer training program for the Army.
Okay.
I served in the Army for 4 years, and then during that time I got married. And my wife and I were expecting our first child, and then I decided that a change was needed, and I left the Army and went.
Just leaving here the rest of them.
I went to law school at Northwestern.
Okay.
So I went to Cornell as an undergrad, and then law school at Northwestern, and then from there, during law school, the cilantro's next. Okay, so we need to rinse it.
They raised it before here. It's okay.
Okay.
So just like a half of that, not all. So,
Okay.
So you went to law school.
So I went to law school, and I was in Chicago, and I worked out there for a couple of years, came back, and then when we came back, my wife went to work for Fairfax County Public Schools as a speech pathologist. She worked at Cameron Elementary and Buzz Aldrin Elementary, maybe a little bit at Navy Elementary.
Just put it this here.
Okay. Is that enough chopping?
Yeah,
And we then had our second and third child. So we were working at home and at work, and we then decided that as a family we wanted to have an adventure. So then we went and lived in Japan for a couple of years.
Wow,
and my wife worked in the Department of Defense school system, and we got a couple of years in.
Just put that thing here.
In Japan, where, let's see, you want me to scoop it?
Yes.
Where when we decided to adopt our fourth child from China, and we adopted Wendy, and she is still in Fairfax County Public Schools at Oakton High School, and that finished our family development so far, and it was about 5 years ago that I became interested in local politics, because what I seemed to be reading in the news and hearing on the radio was that there was just a lot of confrontation and partisanship and political activism going on, and on the school board, and someone said, well, why don't you run? And so I just decided at the very last minute. It was actually maybe in the late spring of
What year?
2015.
2015.
I decided to run, and by my wife's hard work and some good fortune, I was elected in 2015.
So what is the thing that, now you've been experienced to be on the board, what is the thing that you like more about being in the school board?
Well, the most enjoyable thing for sure of being on the board is being able to help parents. Those are the best moments when you get a community that calls and says, hey, we need your help with something. For example, the community at Crossfield Elementary School, a large portion of the parents were objecting to the construction of a cell tower because it would have been right above the kindergarten playground.
Oh, okay.
And so I was able to help them, and that cell tower project never happened. And it was just a great joy to help that community and work to help them with something they really wanted. And I've had that both at the community level with groups and also with individuals, helping them with questions about their students and problems with teachers, to grades, to what their IEP is providing for their child in terms of special education. And that's the best part of being on the school board.
So once you mix all the avocado, onions, and cilantro, you put a little olive oil to give a little more flavor. And you just, usually you have this, it's like a rock.
For smashing it.
You smash it, so we will use this one.
Yeah, just use the bottom end of that maybe.
And but I will do that. So what I asking you something else.
Okay.
So I noticed that lately a lot of things has been happening and the people have been protesting, especially for boundaries. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, it's a complicated issue, and the school board has been working on updating its boundary policy for some time, and that came out of, I think, some discussions that the board of the leadership on the school board and the superintendent had, coming out of what had been a limited boundary change policy that allowed for small changes to be made. Without sort of full engagement by the community. It really gave that authority to the superintendent, and that piece of it ended up, I think, turning into sort of a fuller discussion about the boundaries, and that conversation has continued until this summer, when I think some in the community became concerned about how and in the direction that the changes in the boundary policy were taking.
So these changes, what is the main decision? I try to understand what is the main thing that they wanted to change, or what had to be changed? Is it any something specifically? Is like a lot of kids? Is because the socioeconomic of the students? Or what specifics is about that?
Well, the boundary policy actually included 16, I believe, criteria that would be considered in terms of making a boundary change. And with advice of the superintendent and discussion by the board, we really tried to, have conversations to identify the most significant of those criteria. And in conjunction with this discussion about boundary policy, we tried to look at it in terms of a recent board policy called One Fairfax, which takes what people refer to as an equity lens to look at every policy that we have. And the equity lens does look at socioeconomics and sort of what's happening to different communities within Fairfax County to hopefully help make it more equitable for those communities.
So the meaning that these boundaries, One Fairfax, is really focused in very specific communities regarding maybe race, poverty?
No, the One Fairfax policy is a joint policy that was approved by both the Board of Supervisors and the school board. That policy looks at all county services through this equity lens to see whether or not we can change other policies or other programs within the county to better serve the community.
So this discussion continues, so they have not taken the decisions to change the
That's
boundaries.
right.
However, like in my neighborhood, people are really worried. Like, you know, people have bought this house that is they pay $20,000 to be in this house,
Right.
because they want to go to this pyramid, to this specific. If the boundaries change, the kid may have to take bus to go somewhere.
Right, and that's something that I've raised in the meetings is that when we in our analysis of any boundary change, we need to think about the affected communities and what the families in that community and in that school, you know, are desiring. And so I think that one of the concerns the community has is that their voices won't be heard by the board in terms of boundary changes. And I think that that's a tough issue, because sometimes the board does want to make changes in a community that maybe aren't universally accepted by the families. And at least one board member, myself, my view is, look, if the community doesn't want it, if the community doesn't want the school change, that needs to be given some great deference.
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that I believe and I feel in as a parent, because I have two kids that went from Sunrise Valley to Lansdowne Hills and then South Lakes. I have the feeling that the voice as a parent has never heard. You know, that we send emails, we talk, we do things, our voices have not been heard. And I think the school board is something that is really lacked, and I'm sorry for the board, but it lacked this conversation between the community and the board, no?
Well, I think that you're hitting on something that I think many times in my 4 years on the board, this has come up, where the community engages in listening sessions and opportunities to speak, but then the board itself seems to ignore the majority of voices that are coming forward. And that, frankly, is something that I think is a problem on the board, that you know, it seems almost that the community engagement sometimes is an afterthought to the decision that's been made, because certainly there have been instances where decisions have been made which seem to be opposed to what the community desires.
Absolutely, so it's something important. So your term is finishing.
Yes.
When you finish?
Well, the term runs through the end of the year.
To the end of the year. And then after a lot of thought, you decide that you wanted to try.
Yes. So
is the community really asking you to, you know?
I had a number of people that came to me and said, please run again.
Yeah.
I had to convince my wife because it is a big, the running for the campaign, that's of course a big imposition on our family, and the focus on kind of daily campaign events. But also just the commitment to be on the board is a big one. And it affects, you know, you lose a lot of evenings, and you lose a couple of days a month at least doing work sessions. And so it does have a big impact on your family life. And so I did spend a good deal of time thinking about whether or not I was willing to make that commitment again, because as someone who runs my own business, if I'm not doing my own business, which is practicing law, then you know the wheels can start grinding in terms of our family.
So I think that is admirable in you, that neither way you have these strong issues at home, you still want to help the community. And I really, as a mother of two kids, I really appreciate what you're doing. It's just amazing. But so one of the things that people maybe don't understand is the effort to run a campaign. So we really need people to understand that we as a person that's running for a school, but for any positions, we don't have the resources.
Yes.
So something that I really wanted to share with you, that another candidate was telling me, she said, Laura, it looks like, you know, with the people think that the signs in the streets, the postcards, they're coming from appear for nothing, you know. So what is your view about, you know, it's hard, that part, no?
Well, fundraising in today's political world, and even though it is a school board race in Fairfax County, you need money to run a campaign in Fairfax County, and because every sign has got a price tag, every time you hold an event, there's money involved, and of course, websites,
Everything.
advertising, all of it is money up to spend. And if you have a need to hire anybody to help you,
Yeah.
of course you have to pay them as well. So the fundraising part, and I would urge people to, if you appreciate Laura's show, and she's also running for the school board, that we do run on just personal
Yes.
contributions of individuals who are concerned about the school board and some of the issues that we talk about.
So one of the things very important just to emphasize that if you want to change in the school board, you need to bring people like make changes.
Right.
And if we cannot bring people who make changes, the things will never change. We will stay exactly alike. So to finalize the Café Latino, we are going to try this delicious guacamole.
Okay.
So
We'll get out the ones we made earlier. Looks delicious.
So let's try it.
Okay. That's never a problem.
I know. Let's try it. This is my favorite part about Café Latino. Cooking with
Is
friends.
getting to eat at the end, right? That's my dog.
Well, thank you very much. And if the people want to contribute in your campaign, can you tell what is your webpage?
Yes, my webpage is Tom Wilson, the number 4, schoolboard.com. So that's Tom Wilson for schoolboard.com. You can also provide checks, or I have a way to make payments over the phone by texting. So you can be reached at 571-730-7052 and by email at tomwilsonforschoolboard.com.
So we wanted Tom to stay in the school board because he's one of the persons that have made a difference. So we'll really encourage you to donate today when you watch this video. It doesn't matter where in the world, where in the United States you are, and we don't need to donate $1 million. If you have it, that'd be great. But you can donate $5, $10, $20. If everybody watching this video donate today $5, Tom will be able to continue his campaign and win. Thank you very much to watch Café Latino with Friends.
Thank you.